there are big ideas that we own as an agency that really form kind of the architecture, kind of the background of everything we do. And so those big ideas include things like, in one sense, we can say that the website's still important, but it's also important to recognize how the landscape has changed so that the visibility to your site becomes less direct. It's not way up high, but rather it may be that it's linked to from the organic or the AI overview. Or 50% of people that, if you want to get into marketing, the opportunities are so vast. I mean, you can really say, I'm only going to focus in on
Brian Dempsey, thanks for coming on.
Man,
the myth, the legend.
Yeah, I hear you.
Awesome.
You know what? That's exactly what Tom said when I was on his podcast.
Oh, come on. Okay.
So you must
I
listen
gotta come
to
up
that.
with a new one.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're the founder of Bright Tribe Marketing, correct?
I am. Yep.
Where did the name Bright Tribe come from?
So my first agency was in Gainesville.
Okay.
It was Red Clay Interactive. I started it with some buddies from high school. Was there about 6 years, and we had 25 people. It was all under one roof. It was really expensive, a lot of knowledge. And when I left, I knew that I just wanted to do it differently. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stress when you have that many people that you have to pay for every month. And so the whole concept of Bright Tribe is more a collaboration of just really talented people, a bright tribe.
Okay.
And so we would bring in the right people at the right time to fit a project instead of having to have all of that overhead under one roof.
So you've been doing this for a long time.
Oh, goodness.
Back to the 90s.
Yeah,
right?
Almost 3 decades. Okay. I've done web design and digital marketing. Awesome. So just a couple years after Al Gore invented the internet, I started building websites.
Al Gore invented it. You
That's
perfected
right.
it. Okay,
That's right.
Cool. So tell us some of the services that Bright Tribe provides today.
Oh, goodness. So when we talk about what we do, we talk about it in buckets like messaging.
Okay.
So that's the stories that we tell. We talk about identity. So this is all about how you're perceived, that visual identity. It may be logo or branding or websites. We talk about visibility, right? How do we get eyeballs in front of you in the right places? We talk about reputation. So building that online reputation so that there's confidence and authority. And then ultimately strategy. So we help bring small businesses not just a tactical, but a more strategic approach to their marketing. So we talk about it in those terms. We don't really talk about SEO and websites and social media. Instead, we talk more about messaging, identity, visibility, and reputation.
Okay, great. So when we talk about marketing, is marketing just getting in front of the right people? Is it advertising? I know there are a lot of misconceptions about what marketing actually is. What is your philosophy when it comes to the word marketing?
Yeah, so I guess I don't know that I've thought about it in that term, like a philosophy of marketing. There are big ideas that we own as an agency that really form kind of the architecture, kind of the background of everything we do. And so those big ideas include things like, we believe that small businesses deserve the same kind of strategy that big businesses have, just without the fluff and the cost, right? I believe that everything starts with clarity with your message, that everything flows out of that. So when we're talking about marketing, it's how do we get in front of the right people at the right time with the right message so that they think, feel, and do what we want them to think, feel, and do. That's consistent with our brand, right?
Okay.
And all of that gets filtered through a lot of these big ideas that we really believe.
Gotcha. So, what most of the viewers want people to do is buy, right? Buy their services, buy their product, right? So as far as marketing, so you mentioned messaging a few times. What is the key that people need to think about when they're developing their messaging?
Yeah, that's really good. And I might even push back a little bit on the idea of buying, because there are lots of things that we might want people to do. It may be buying, but it could be that we want to reduce the overhead in our support department. So we want people to go to the website and use that instead of calling, right? Or it may be we're trying to increase membership or donors, or like there's a lot of different things. But when we're talking about messaging, we're talking about the stories that we tell that connect emotionally, empathically, right? That are emotionally resonant with that person, that helps to differentiate us, to set us apart, and has immediate clarity, so that when they hear our elevator pitch or when they read our website, it's not that they immediately know what we do, but rather they're immediately drawn in, and there's this emotional connection. You get me. You get my problem, or you're speaking to my desire for the opportunity. Whatever the emotional trigger is, we really want to understand what the emotional triggers are, drivers for our ideal client, and speak to those.
So what do you think there are any big companies out there that people would know that are getting that right? And give us an example, could you?
Sure. So, a lot of this comes down, I think, to how we understand what a brand is, right? Because a brand is not a logo, right? A lot of people say, well, I'm building my brand, and what they really mean is they're designing their logo. But a brand is more about the implied promise that comes along with that. So that when you hold an iPhone, the promise is there is a sense of exclusivity, of this being part of the in crowd, of being, maybe a little technology forward or whatever, right? So that's the promise. If you buy this product, that's the way it's going to make you feel. And so when what you buy is that, and then on top of that, they have a recognizable logo, so that when you see that logo, now what the experience is communicated from that. That's what we're trying to get at in our marketing. What we're trying to get at is, what is the promise behind that? What can you expect or experience as a result of interacting with a particular company or a particular brand? Does that make sense?
I think so. So you're telling me that when I buy an iPhone, I'm not necessarily just cool and in the in crowd, but that they've sort of marketed that to me to make me feel that way on purpose?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gotcha. So if I'm starting a new business, what's the first thing I need to think about? Is it branding? Is it messaging? Is it just getting out there in front of as many people as I need or can?
That's a really, really good question. We believe everything starts with the story. Everything starts with the message, and it flows from that. So one of the things that might differentiate the way we approach marketing is we start with clarity in the message. Okay. And we do that doing a deep dive with what we call our brand message architecture, our brand messaging blueprint. And it's actually a deliverable. It's something that we physically give back to a client that is usually a 60 to 80 page deep dive into who is that ideal client, what is the message at every stage of awareness, how do we communicate effectively, what's going on in their mind, what are the questions that they're asking you, but also what's their self-talk. What are they asking themselves, their peer-related questions? And then we develop comprehensive personas. So it is a comprehensive messaging framework that our clients quite literally give to front-end salespeople, customer service, Anybody that does any kind of communication to the customer gets on one page with one source of messaging or truth for that organization. And then from there, we start building out a visual identity. We have the verbal identity, we have the story. From there, we build logo. From there, we build websites. From there, we build social media templates. And now we have a message that gets translated into email marketing, LinkedIn articles, newsletters, social media posts, blog posts, website content, presentations that you do, all get filtered through this messaging architecture so you know that it connects with people at every stage that they're in. Does that make sense? So we start with messaging.
That's amazing. So it starts with the story and the messaging and getting that to the right people. Is
That's
that right? Okay.
Yep. And then you figure out, where are they? Not every company needs to be on Instagram.
Yeah.
Not everybody, if you post to your Facebook business page, you might as well just be, throwing things out the window, because the only people that are going to see it are you, your wife, and a couple of people in the office are going to give you a pity like.
Yeah.
And that's it. And that's not marketing, right? It's getting that message in front of the right people at the right time consistently to move the needle, to get them to think, feel, and do what you want them to think, feel, and do.
Gotcha. So I've heard a lot about, develop or consider who your ideal target client is. Do you believe in developing that sort of ideal target client and then trying to figure out where they are, whether it's on the internet or...
Oh, absolutely. And that can be done either in a very sophisticated way, or, there are PDFs that you can just download, offline, that are a 2-page questionnaire that asks you who uses your product, what do they do, what do they feel. Anything like that, any tool like that helps you incrementally get closer and closer to who a lot of times that ideal client is. And sometimes it's not really defined. Sometimes it is defined by age or demographic or education, but often it's defined more by particular values or aspirations or characteristics that are more psychological, not objective demographic type characteristics.
Sure.
And so, this is where we bring a lot of experience to help peel back those layers, and when needed, are able to do the research necessary to say who really is your ideal client.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. And this isn't one of our clients. I've got a buddy who owns an agency, and he works in the outdoor sporting space. And when they were working with one of their rifle clients, this client manufactured a really high-end, expensive rifle. And they were convinced that because of how cool it was, that people in their 20s and 30s were going to be their ideal client. And this was the manufacturer. The manufacturer didn't sell to the end client. They sold through distributors. And so when they were doing their marketing, it kept falling flat because the manufacturer was sending marketing materials down to the distributors and it wasn't connecting. But when they did their research, they found out that the majority of the people that were spending that kind of money were over 60. And these guys had a lot more expendable income and could afford to buy a cool one-off gun, where the younger guys were like, hey, if I've got to buy just one gun, it's not going to be this novelty thing.
Gotcha.
And so that's an instance where somebody can think they know who their audience is,
but get it wrong.
And get it wrong. And it really takes getting on the front line or doing some research to understand who your audience really is.
What's the number one question that you say you get from your clients or prospective clients?
How much is it going to cost? No.
Okay. That's probably a very truthful answer. Funny answer. Now let me flip it. What is the number one question that you think they should be asking you?
Yeah. What can you do within my budget? No. Honestly, when people come, usually they're coming to me either after getting burned like some kind of failed marketing. They come and they said, you know what, I was spending $5,000 a month on Google ads.
Right.
And you begin peeling back the layers, and it's like, well, what were you targeting, and what were the ads, and where was the link going? And they're like, well, I think it was just going to my homepage, and I'm dying. I'm like, you're literally just wasting all this money. And so a lot of people come because they've been burned. We also work with a lot of startups, people who are just launching their businesses. And then we get people who have just had their existing presence and messaging for a long time, right? There was no real strategy behind it. They've had it for
throwing stuff at the wall.
Yeah, they've just had it for years. And a lot of times what happens is they hire somebody new, and the new person comes along and they're the catalyst saying, your website really stinks. Like you really need to do something. When people come, there's really not one question. It's usually, what can you do? And when we start talking about kind of our more holistic strategy, messaging, identity, visibility, reputation, then it really does come down to, okay, let's prioritize this. Can you phase it in? Yes, we can phase it in. Mm-hmm. And where do we need to go first? And for us, again, I'm going to say it until John has to edit it out 1,000 times. Messaging, right? It starts with getting clear on what is our story. And then from there, we look at how do we implement that.
Gotcha. As we head into 2026, do you think that websites are still going to be as important as they once were? We're dealing with a bunch of different artificial intelligence on the scene. What do you see as the number one, challenge for marketers in going into 2026?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. So I think everybody has to acknowledge the landscape has radically changed. Mm-hmm. And to give you an example of this, I know you're old enough probably to remember the old Google search result page. Like in the beginning, it would be highlighted in yellow would be the paid ads, and they literally said sponsored, and they were highlighted in yellow to set them apart.
Right.
And then right underneath it was organic listings. And those days are so far gone that today the search result page has changed dramatically. Google has gone out of its way to own the real estate for about 2 pages worth of search results. So now you get maybe local service ads, sponsored ads. You might get the Google Map Pack. Above that, you'll get the new AI overview that's giving you answers with AI.
Yes.
Underneath that, you may have those little toggles, those expandable little questions, and you get all of that before you even get to
an organic website,
an organic listing. So sometimes, depending on the search, you've got to scroll 2 freaking pages before you get there.
Yeah.
So in one sense, we can say that the website's still important, but it's also important to recognize how the landscape has changed so that the visibility to your site becomes less direct. It's not way up high, but rather it may be that it's linked to from the organic or the AI overview. Or 50% of people that look at the local map listing with the star reviews,
yes,
50% are going to look at the website to see if you're credible. So you got to show up there, and then when they click, you need a credible website. And so a lot of times people are coming to the website in different ways, but they're still getting there. And that's why that speed and credibility and message, professionalism is still important, because in a lot of ways it's still the hub of your online presence. And you're getting there from all these different avenues now.
Do you see that as more of a challenge these days with more avenues leading to this website? Or is that still some, Is it still the same thing, just in a different flavor?
No, it is. It's a challenge because getting in each one of those spots costs money. It costs money either in you paying somebody on staff, your own time that you're having to take. Like if you're doing sponsored ads, you're paying. If you're doing local service ads, you're paying. If you want to show up in that AI overview, the only way that you get there is by having the kind of content, quality content that's real, that answers questions, that's authoritative, usually meaning professionally written, to end up there. That Google business listing, you don't just typically show up there serendipitously. There's usually some stuff behind the scenes that's driving that. So yeah, it can be harder because each one of those places costs time or money to really effectively show up consistently.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
I think so. So it's not easy.
No.
There's got to be a lot of thought behind your marketing, your messaging.
Which is exactly why you want to understand what that message is, who your client is, and how can we build a strategy. Very few, particularly small businesses, can just afford to do everything.
Right.
So you figure out where are you going to get the best bang for your buck? Where do you get the quick wins, right? Where do you show up more consistently and gain more traction? And that's what we help them do.
Gotcha. And so a few years ago, social media may have been cheaper or free,
sure,
organic, posting may have driven some visitors to your website. These days, are you seeing that going away, or is there anywhere that a small startup can sort of devote their time and resources to still get those eyeballs?
Oh, no. I think social media, and it's free, you don't own it, which is, one of the challenges. The only thing you typically own is your website and your email list. So, if you want to focus on what you own, that's it. But social media is still fantastic. I mean, I've got a buddy that really focuses almost exclusively on Instagram marketing for service-based businesses. And his clients just knock it out of the park. It's a lot of video. It takes time, money, editing, right? You've got to commit to this. And it's not cheap, but it's effective. And so there are certain businesses who can say, you know what? I'm not worried about Google ads. I'm not worried about Facebook ads. I'm not worried about this. I really want to become the go-to personality on this topic, providing real value for real users. And I'm just going to show up consistently on Instagram in my local market. And you can do that. Mm-hmm. So there's just not a one size fits all. And social media can be really, really effective. But you're not doing social media if what you're really doing is just posting to your Facebook page.
Okay. So just the, Happy Memorial Day post.
Yeah. You might as well not be posting if that's what you're posting. And to that end, and I'm sure we'll get to AI here, but to that end, a lot of people today are just using generic AI to do a lot of their posting.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, they go to ChatGPT and they say, I'm an injury, blah, 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 attorney, and I need a post talking about this, and click, and they take the 400 words that it spits out, and they simply copy and paste it, and they drop it in, and that's their latest blog post.
You're getting a little too close to home there, Brian.
I don't think y'all do that. But I'm going to tell you, a lot of people do. And I can remember I'm trying to think how long ago this was. I'm going to date myself. 20 years ago, maybe not even, we got into the content marketing craze. Everybody and their uncle became a content marketer, and it flooded the internet.
Like super long, or are you talking about super long blogs with?
No,
filled with keywords.
Yeah, it was a lot of keyword stuffing. They weren't necessarily long though. They were low quality, crapperware content. It provided no value. But at the time, the Google algorithm was looking at that. And if you posted 500 pages to your website, then all of a sudden Google saw you as an authority. And they corrected, right? They looked at that and they said, wait a minute, all this is just junk. It provides no value, and they penalized it. Well, now with the adoption of things like ChatGPT or Grok or Gemini or whatever, a lot of people are starting to do the same thing all over again. Low quality, generic content that has no real relevance to the user. It's just whatever it spits out, I'm going to copy and paste it right onto my blog. And they're really hurting themselves because Google is going to penalize that.
Gotcha. So they think they can just pump out a bunch of content because it's easy.
Because it's
the
AI.
AI will write it.
That's right.
But it's actually, in fact, hurting them.
100%.
Okay.
Yep. That doesn't mean that you can't strategically use AI.
Sure.
But it does mean that if somebody just has even a paid account and they're just going in there and saying, this is who I am, write this content, and it spits it out, it's not going to do anything for you. And most of the time, you and I are getting clued into the little telltale signs that things are written by AI, right? ChatGPT doesn't know how to write a freaking sentence without using an M dash.
Yes.
You know, if you read 100 words and you see an M dash, that's ChatGPT.
Sure.
Right? Every time.
And explain what the M dash is. It's
that longer dash.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just your little one dash, and you really can't make that M dash. I don't know how to make that M dash on your phone. You can do it on your computer, but it's hard to make that on your phone. And so as soon as you see that M dash,
see that's an indicator.
You're just like
ChatGPT.
It's just all ChatGPT.
Yeah. So how can people then use AI? What's the best way they can use it right now in their marketing? What do you think?
So one of the things we do for clients is after we build their messaging blueprint, we then create really strict writing guidelines that say, here's all of our messaging, here's our audience, here's kind of our value and big pictures and all this stuff. Here's a set of writing guidelines. And then we've got like a kind of a proprietary prompt chains, and we will actually build custom GPTs for our clients so that when they go to ChatGPT, it has all this information on the back end. It's been trained. It understands every single thing of this 80-page document, plus their services and audience or contracts or sample emails or anything like that. We're able to train it. And now when they say, I need this written, instead of it just spitting out 600 words, it may walk them through 10 or 12 prompts before we even get to writing anything, because we're really honing in, and the end result is tailored for you. Like another company couldn't easily just slap their name at the top, because we've really tailored that content for your experience, your expertise, your authority.
Is that because you fed certain information to the AI?
Yep. Not just fed it on the back end, but also the prompts that it sends you, we've custom written so that if you wanted a new blog post, it will walk you through how to create it effectively for SEO, because we've done that for 30 years.
Wow.
So we're taking our knowledge and our experience and we're baking it into the process you're going through when you use ChatGPT.
Great. And you mentioned a GPT.
Yep.
Right? Can you explain what a GPT is? I think I've got a little bit of an idea, but I'm not smart enough to understand, really.
No. When you go to, when you're logged into ChatGPT, if you have a paid account, on the top left corner, it will say GPTs in that black bar. and there will be a little button that says Explore GPTs. So if you click it, it's almost like a marketplace. So you can search for GPTs that people around the world have created and they've made public and they've put into this marketplace. So you could find one, for example, I have zero doubt if you typed in law firm marketing, you could find a GPT that somebody created, and on the back end, they may have given it some information, they've told it how to do the prompts, they've done all that, and you could use that GPT. But you also have the ability to create your own.
Okay.
And when you create your own, that gives you the ability to upload documents, give it custom instructions, etc. And we have really perfected what that process looks like to get the very best results for SEO, for our clients' messaging, to make sure everything is really tight around that blueprint. That's what you wouldn't get if you used a generic one. Here's my law firm marketing GPT. Mm-hmm. It still doesn't know you.
Right.
It doesn't know your experience and value and et cetera. So it would still be kind of generic, but it would be better than plain old Chat GPT.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
I think so.
Yeah. So when you sit back at your computer, you just got to click GPTs, explore GPTs, and you'll be lost for the next hour. You'll just be playing around.
Fair enough. I'll have my paralegal yelling at me.
That's right.
Okay. So let's switch gears a little bit. So if somebody is a small business owner and they're, working hard, but they're struggling to keep their calendar full with leads and business, where should they devote their resources as far as marketing goes? What is the first step to getting in front of more people?
Okay, so tell me what I'm going to say. What's the word? It rhymes with messaging. It begins with an M, right? So honestly, the very first thing is messaging, and then it ultimately depends on what those leads are. Like, are they really leads? Are they sales? Are they downloads? Do we want do we have a longer sales cycle? So what I need to do is I need to fill people up at the beginning so that I can start kind of drip communicating to them, maybe by email or text. And so this is where, again, there's just not a one size fits all approach to generating those, because what that lead is or what that sale is going to be completely different if you're a plumber who your pipes burst and you need somebody right now,
right, versus
some other type of business where it may have a longer lead time. Does that make sense?
I think absolutely. So
like even in my case, right? If I'm not constantly communicating to people and staying in front or email or whatever it may be, I want to be the guy when they go, oh, either we need to redesign the website, or somebody asks something about marketing, to where somebody goes, I know somebody, and they know them because I've just consistently been in front of them in social or email or whatever.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. So in my business, as far as being a personal injury attorney, a lot of our clients, it's like what I call an emergency service, right? Nobody plans to get into a car accident.
That's right.
Right. However, an estate planning attorney, people plan to, create a will and a trust and all of their necessary estate documents.
Right.
So their lead time may be a lot different than typing in, I just got into a wreck. What do I do next?
That's right.
So I guess it's tailored for everybody's business.
Sure. Like the difference between looking for a personal injury attorney and buying a digital camera.
Yes.
For the digital camera, you might do 8 to 12 different searches across multiple user sessions. And in between, you're literally walking into Best Buy, holding it, talking to the guy. Then you're going back home and you're not in Google, you're in YouTube looking at reviews. So to sell the digital camera means that you want to be found as much as you can across the whole buying cycle.
Okay.
from digital camera to Sony digital camera to the type of model to being found on YouTube for reviews to being optimized for best price, et cetera. And then your messaging needs to be, is it free shipping or warranty or whatever, needs to really be clear. So there's an entirely different buying journey for that than maybe for you, where it would be important for you to say, oh, when I did that search, he showed up in that AI overview. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of people don't even realize that the AI overview it gives you, it actually links to websites where it's drawing that information from. Okay. So people can click and actually go directly to your website. So how do I get found in that AI overview? How do I write content that shows up in those little snippets there? And how do I make sure that within maybe a 10-mile radius of this location, that every time somebody does a search, I'm showing up in that Google Map pack and people are seeing me there, right? That's a different approach than getting found over a whole buying cycle.
Right. So what I hear is there's not a one size fits all solution or approach to this.
Right.
Do you, in Bright Tribe, do you focus on any type of specific type of business that you want to service, or does it run the gamut? What's your ideal client?
Yeah. So before we moved to Jackson County, we moved to Jackson County 6 years ago this month. And prior to that, I was in Flowery Branch. We were only 20 miles from where we moved, but it was a whole different world.
Yeah.
And Jackson County is its own thing. And I think at that time, I only had a handful of clients in the state of Georgia. I had clients from Seattle to Louisiana, South Dakota, and Japan, but I only had a couple in Georgia, and they were really big all over. And when I moved, I made the decision that, one, I did not know a single person in Jackson County, zero. And so we moved on Saturday. I joined the local chamber on Tuesday and went to my very first meeting on Wednesday. And I just had the mindset I wanted to get to know people in my community. And for the first time, I wanted to be able to do business with people in my community.
Yeah.
And so that meant over the last few years, I have turned my agency completely on its head. And instead of doing really big projects, really focusing on home service, professional service, health and wellness, some smaller manufacturing startups, consulting. And that means that I kind of run the gamut, but the characteristics are the same. Like my process gets us where we need to go. So it doesn't matter if you're a massage therapist or a roofer or a knife sharpening company in Louisiana, the process gets us amazing results because I know where we're going and how to get there.
Gotcha. So it sounds like they're mostly local service businesses. So is their market local as well?
Most of my clients are, but still we did, for example, the global and US Takeuchi websites.
Okay.
If you're a fisherman, Gamakatsu hooks. Gamakatsu are out of Japan. We do the Gamakatsu site. So I've still got some larger clients, but I really get a lot of personal satisfaction working directly with business owners. Maybe it's a business owner who's got kind of a sales guy that's kind of a lead, but helping them because you see the tangible results. I mean, you see it when you make a difference in these companies.
Yes.
And that's very satisfying.
What challenges did you face when you flipped your agency to more of a local approach?
Boy, that was a big deal. A lot of it was the recurring revenue. Like probably my biggest mistake I've made a bunch of them. In fact, one of my videos on TikTok is, like the 4 biggest mistakes I made running my agency. So I've made mistakes, but one of those mistakes was about recurring revenue. I did not focus over time about building recurring services because our projects were really big. And, of course there were recurring pieces of it, but I made really good money and I wasn't worried about the recurring side. And now being a little bit older and I'm looking at, okay, well, what's my exit strategy however many years down the road? A lot of that has to do with building the monthly recurring revenue. And so the smaller your client, the smaller the amount that they spend monthly.
Sure.
So that's probably looking at how we can provide real value. I think we've done a good job of that, but how we can provide value on a monthly basis was the biggest challenge for smaller businesses.
Yeah, I've had that same sort of experience with, car accidents. People get into them once usually, right?
That's right.
And then, whereas I get jealous of, say, dentists where their clients come supposedly twice a year.
Let me tell you something. My dentist should have a house in Belize for as many times as I've been to him.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Are there any tips that you can give someone that wants to get into the marketing business? So somebody that wants to create their own agency, do what you do, what would you say? I mean, obviously messaging is the first thing they should focus on, but what are some more practical tips that people don't think about when they get into your business?
Yeah. So I've really been blessed. I've been able to mentor several younger people.
Oh, that's great.
And other folks who are more solopreneurs. I manage Bright Tribe from a home office, and I have for 20 years. In just a few months, it'll be 20 years. But I still have a team in Germany, Italy, Greece, Boston, Birmingham, Tampa, right? So that I've worked with for years. And when I started, everybody was a generalist. Like when I started, you understood server management and motion graphics and design and some code, and that's not the world today. When you walk into a more traditional marketing agency today, things are very siloed. So you have this project manager, this content writer, this SEO specialist, this backlink person, this person over here doing front-end design. And so what I tell people is, if you want to get into marketing, the opportunities are so vast. I mean, you can really say, I'm only going to focus in on paid digital, just on Meta, and I'm going to own that. So I would tell somebody, specialize, like become the absolute go-to person in that one area where you have the greatest interest, talent, desire, where you just fit like a hand in a glove, and own that, become the expert in that, rather than trying to become a generalist. And then you make yourself super valuable here, and you can outsource those services, you can white label those services, and you can have your own clients.
I think that's really poignant, because the way business is going, in my opinion, is everybody's niching, right? Like you've got one of the phrases are the niches are in the riches, are in the niches. Do you feel that?
Yeah. So I struggle with that. Like there have been times where I'm just sitting back and I'm going, maybe I'm missing the boat by not doing this. Mm-hmm. The challenge is I have 20 years worth of clients.
Right.
Like, and one of the things that's a little bit unique about Bright Tribe is I work with multiple other agencies. So when I'm on a Zoom call during the week, it is nothing for me to have a virtual background with 2 or 3 different agencies' logos, and I'm the director of digital strategy for an agency in Tampa. I'm the creative director for an agency in Indianapolis. I'm the brand messaging director for an agency near Birmingham. And so I jump on these calls and they white label my services. So, and it can be all across the board. And a significant amount of my business comes from these relationships with other agencies. So it's really hard for me to just niche down into one industry vertical. But the one thing that I am looking at is developing maybe a second brand to just focus on that higher end messaging, right? So I have Bright Tribe, but then I'll also have this other brand that, if you really want clear storytelling messaging for your business, this is it. And that way I can focus just on that one service.
That's awesome. I think messaging is probably your specialty.
I love it. And I'm going to tell you, it started as an accident.
Really?
Like this service, it has put a significant amount of money to our bottom line over the last few years. It's crazy how much. And it started as an accident because I was doing some coaching for a client doing video. And we were talking about clarity with their message and how to connect with people and how to speak through the camera and all this stuff. And I had spent some time on some topics that she needed to talk about and understanding her audience. And I was sitting down with her, and it was a massage therapist. I was sitting down with her, and she's frantically scribbling. And I'm like, oh, don't worry about that. I said, I'll send you over something. Well, I knew I couldn't send her just some ugly Google Doc with some notes in it.
Right.
And I'm doing my research, and I walked into a networking group, the North Georgia Business Connection, NGBC.
Great group.
Yeah. And I was in that for years down in Hamilton Mill. I walked in, and the speaker didn't show up that day. And so I looked at the director, and I was the assistant director, and he said, you want to share something? I'm like, yeah, I'll just share. I stood up and I shared my ugly black and white Google Doc formatted notes. Wasn't even looking pretty yet. I just said, this is what I'm doing, and you can see these different areas. And when I got done, they said, okay, are there any questions? 3 people stood up and said, how much is that? And I'm stuttering. I just made it. I'm $500. Like I didn't know what to say. I sold the first 3 that day. Ended up expanding to where now it's gone from like this 16-page document to we have done some that are nearly 100 pages that are the most comprehensive, detailed, robust, marketing first. They are amazing. And it is the most comprehensive messaging blueprint architecture that I've ever seen. And it started by just saying, I'll just send you some notes.
Nice.
And I happened to share them. And I'm like, I think I might be onto something here.
So is it still $500?
No.
For me though, right?
Yeah. So, well, we can work out a monthly payment.
Fair.
But no, seriously. And honestly, like I'm doing a blueprint now that is completely custom. It is for a commercial printer down in Duluth. I was telling you about it before we started. A few years ago, they were maybe 5 to 7 million. Now they're going to be 50 to 60 million in annual revenue. But their website just makes them look like they do door hangers and political postcards. Their messaging isn't consistent with who they are now. They've evolved. And so, part of our process, I've interviewed all their leadership and strategy team and the founders. We've interviewed their entire operations and technology folks. We've interviewed their sales and service and logistics people. And we're pulling all of these pieces together to understand who they are and what they do and who they do it for and what are the stories they tell and what resonates and what's the sales process look like, so that we can craft a messaging blueprint architecture for them, and everybody will be on the same page. Everybody tells the same story, and then we can redesign their website and they'll go from door hangers and large format printing to Silicon Valley level automation and technology.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Is there any risk in that sort of rebranding messaging, or is that just a no-brainer?
Any risk?
I mean, as far as a business doing that amount of money, it seems scary to sort of retool your marketing.
Well, for them in particular, I don't see the risk. Sometimes the risk can be this. Sometimes the risk can be people can have the perception that maybe they can no longer afford you.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on who you want your target audience to be, that might be a good thing.
Fair.
Because like nobody, for example, will go to the Bright Tribe website and see the work we do and contact me and say, I've got $1,000.
Gotcha.
Right? Because, and I don't have to say we don't do that, but the overall message and everything communicates to them that it's just at a different level. And I don't say that to say that we're like some crazy expensive thing, because we focus on small business, right? I mean, we make it work for small business, but sometimes the risk is alienating some folks, and that's why you really have to work hard at that messaging so that it resonates with everybody. And one of the cool things that we do too in our blueprint is a portion of it is this journey. We had to give it a fancy name. It's called the Journey-Driven Content Matrix. And so
Journey-Driven Content Matrix.
So we say, what is the journey from being completely unaware that somebody needs your service to being most aware where they've talked to you and they're evaluating you? And at every stage of awareness, they have certain limiting beliefs, objections, desires, and problems. And we identify what those are at every stage of awareness, and we'll build content around that so that we're addressing them when they maybe they don't realize, for example, that a commercial printer could help them in this particular instance. Maybe they think it's too complex, and so they have that limiting belief. So we'd have a case study that addresses capability, or they have a particular problem at the next stage of awareness. And over time, we develop content across that whole journey so that no matter where they are, we're able to point them to, here's this case study, here's this blog post, here's this article, here's this. And it informs the way we talk to people at every stage. So, it's a neat little piece.
Interesting. I think I may know the answer, or what answer you're going to give, right? But say somebody's in what we call a red ocean industry, right?
Yep.
Where there's,
Yep.
Lots of competition.
That's right.
Personal injury, for example. There's lots of personal injury attorneys. You can
100%.
drive down the highway, see
How
plenty
do you
of
get in the
billboards.
blue ocean?
Right. Well, yeah. How do you stand out? I think I know what you're going to say, but tell me what your thoughts are.
Yeah. So it's interesting because when we're talking about this whole service with messaging, with the story that you tell, there are three kinds of clients that we really love working with. One is the complex business to business. They've got a product or a service that's difficult to grasp. It's really hard to understand what it is or how it works or where it fits. So helping them to really clarify that message, B2B side.
Okay.
The second is service businesses that are often commoditized,
Right.
that are so me too. Have you ever been to a network? We have been to networking groups where a real estate person, literally, there's like 4 of them in a room, and they go around the room, and one of the 4 will stand up and say, "Yeah, me too. I do that too."
Yeah.
And so,
or the insurance salesman.
yes, in Me Too kinds of industries, you figure out how do you change the message so that even if you're doing the same thing other people do, you talk about it differently. I'm going to give you 2 examples. I love this. So when I first started Bright Tribe, I was in a group called the Rainmaker Council, and it was down in Atlanta, really expensive. And one of the guys that ran it, Mike Ween, W-E-I-N, little fella. I met him at this Mexican restaurant, and his suit was a little bit too big. And he was like the former marketing guy for Frito-Lay, former North American marketing guy or whatever for PepsiCo. Like, he was the real deal.
Wow.
And we sit down in this booth, and he says, Brian, what are you famous for?
Great question.
Dude, I rambled for 20 minutes. And finally he says, I don't know what in the hell you do. That's what he told me. And that's how clear my message was at the time. Is I don't know what you do. And so over about the next year, he helped me to clarify it. But I remember, here's the story. I remember sitting in this group. One of the guys in there was a guy named Jason, and he was a real estate guy, commercial real estate, and like Class A, like, big, nice Class A commercial real estate in Atlanta. And at the time, there were probably 5,000 other people in Atlanta did exactly what he does. Sure. And he was a former Navy pilot. He had flown fighter jets off aircraft carriers in the Mediterranean. He had been in combat. He hitchhiked around the world for like a year or something and wrote a book.
Oh, wow.
None of that has anything to do with real estate, but he didn't have a story any different. So the way he would fumble through it is he would say something like, well, if they trusted me with $1 billion plane, you can trust me to, it didn't work. It was sideways. And we're sitting around this table one day, and he says, the reality is most of my clients just want to stay where they are. They're in their space. Their lease is up for renewal. And he said, I spend all my time chasing down other options, getting quotes, just so that I can come back to their landlord and try to negotiate a better rate on their renewal. And it clicked. And I said, Jason, what you do is you create a competitive environment for your clients to drive down their lease renewal to get them the very best rates possible. That's what you specialize in. You specialize in helping your clients stay in their existing space at the most competitive rate by creating a competitive environment.
Amazing.
But he does what everybody else does. He just talks about it differently.
Wow. And
the second story, okay, I'm going to tell you 3 stories. The second story, when we started our first agency in Gainesville, we were in the Hush building, right on the square, right off the corner of the square there. Beautiful offices, tons of people, amazing talent. And we would go to Atlanta. And my former partner, his dad was the president of a massive agency, a $50 million a year agency in Atlanta. And so we had connections, we had all this stuff. We would go to Atlanta and people would say, where's your office? And we would say in Gainesville. And I'm going to tell you, we had more doors shut in our face because everybody thought there was nothing but chicken houses and cow pastures in Gainesville. And these country boys can't know what we're doing down here in the big city.
Right.
It happened again and again and again. And one day we were in a meeting and my programmer was there. The developer was there. And they said, where's your office? And he piped up and he said, it's up on Lake Lanier. And immediately they said, oh, that's amazing. We just love that. And we said, oh yeah, dude, our office is right off the square in Gainesville, right by the lake, so that it's all about lifestyle for us. I'm not sitting in traffic for 2 hours to go 4 miles. And it was a non-issue. And from then on, every time somebody asked, where's our office? It was on Lake Lanier.
Just reframing it.
And our office didn't move, but the perception changed.
Yes.
And so I'm going to give you one more story. One of my clients, you mentioned insurance a minute ago. and the Me Too thing. One of my clients sells insurance, and it's the home, auto, blah, 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 right? And so it's not very sexy. Nobody wants to do it. And everybody says the same thing about it. And as we were talking, he really liked working with first-time drivers. And so I started thinking, we need to really help set you apart. So now, if you ask him, what do you do? He'll say, I specialize in helping first-time or parents of first-time drivers get the right coverage at the best price for the specific challenges that they're going to have with those teen drivers. That's what I specialize in.
And he can still write lines for any other type of driver.
For your RV or your this or whatever. But now, when you're talking to your neighbor at the pool or at the mailbox and they're fussing because their rates went through the roof because now little Johnny is coming on their insurance or whatever, guess what? I know somebody who specializes in helping parents of first-time drivers. And every single solitary year, there's another new batch of those first-time drivers. So that audience is never going away. So you see, he does the same thing. Jason does the same thing. Our office didn't move. My client does the same thing, but how we talk about it is different. And that's what we're really, really good at.
Gotcha. So then it reframes someone's opinion of you or of your business.
That's right.
So they think about you the way you want them to think about you.
That's right.
Great. That's amazing. Are there any other tips besides getting your messaging right? Last minute tips that you want to leave the audience?
Yeah. I mean, I would just say this. I would say your marketing shouldn't just be an expenditure, right? Your website should not just be a business card. Maybe somewhere out there is a business where their online presence is just there only for credibility. It's not going to do anything. They just need it because they need it. But most of the time, you ought to look at your website as if it had a job description and you were hiring a full-time sales and marketing person. Like what is it doing? And what are your quarterly evaluations that you're doing to see are they really pulling their weight? And most people set it and forget it. Right? They're I'm done with my website.
Yeah.
it's up. Boy, that was painful. I had to write all my content myself, and they're just glad it's done, and they don't want to go through that process again. And I would just say, if that's where people find themselves, then they're really, they're running their business with two left feet. They're not really on track for the kind of growth that they could have otherwise if they viewed it as a real marketing asset with a job description that should generate results.
Well, thank you, Brian. Brian, Bright Tribe Marketing.
Smart marketing.
Where can people find you?
brighttribe.com is the best place, and you can schedule a Zoom call right from the homepage.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That was very valuable content.
And I really appreciate being here.
2026.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you.
Thank you.